Welcome back to Breath of Adventure and welcome to the wild rides of 2024. Adventure riding and solo camping stories, where adventure, grit, and a little bit of chaos collide. From solo moto camping under the stars to bikes breaking down in the middle of nowhere and even a collapsing bridge. This year's journey has been unforgettable, and trust me, you'll want to stay to the end because of some of these moments. They're too wild to believe. This episode is packed with everything from stunning camp spots to legendary trails and first-time experiences like tackling Central America on two wheels. Sit down, relax, and get ready for the ride of the year. My first ride at 24 didn't start in Canada. It started in Costa Rica. A land of blistering sun, laid-back locals, and traffic that moves somewhere between lightning fast and leisurely slow. Renting a 200cc street-legal dirt bike might have been a gamble. At first glance, I didn't think it had enough power for the two of us, but I was wrong. This bike had some serious grit. But what really made this trip special wasn't just the ride. For months, my partner and I had been talking about going riding together, imagining what it'd feel like to share the open road. And here we were, in this incredible place, finally making it happen.
Oh, we're just hanging out here on the side of the highway. Luckily, we got some friggin' shade.
Another favorite part of this trip was leaving super early in the morning, hopping on the bike and riding down to the beach. There, with the sound of the waves crashing against the shore, I took some time to do my morning breath work. Starting the day grounded by the ocean, with the sun rising over the horizon, was a moment of pure connection, both with nature and myself. Honestly, I was just as nervous as I was excited. Driving my first car here was nerve-wracking enough, and now I'm taking the bike into the chaos of Central America traffic. But once we hit the road, it was all worth it. The warmth of the sun, the adventure of exploring new places, and the joy of sharing it with someone I care about deeply. It was perfection. All in all, it was an unforgettable way to kick off 24, a trip filled with excitement, connection, and the kind of memories that stay with you forever.
You said?
Yeah.
My first moto camping trip of the spring season started with a bit of drama, blowing out a fork seal on the highway. At first, I was terrified, thinking I was covered in engine oil, which would have been a disaster. But when I realized it was fork oil, relief set in. I knew I'd lost almost all the fluid, and riding with that much oil gone meant the front end would be a little squirrely. Let's just say at highway speeds, it felt like it was dancing around a little bit. A little less control than I'd like. But I gambled it, and I got to the woods in one piece. Once I got to the spot, all the stress melted away. The crisp morning air, a hot coffee in hand, and watching the mist dance on the water as the sun rose. Those moments are etched in my memory forever. It's times like these that remind me how important it is to slow down, be present, and really take in what's in front of us. The eclipse itself was nothing short of magical. As the sky darkened and the world seemed to hold its breath, the wildlife around me came alive. Birds, deer, and even the odd rustle in the bushes. Everything felt heightened, like nature itself was reacting to the event. Witnessing something so rare in such a remote and peaceful place was a once-in-a-lifetime experience. Despite the rocky start with the fork seal, this trip set the bar incredibly high for the rest of the season. A reminder that even if things don't go to plan, the journey can still be unforgettable.
That's like if the bike goes over, it's definitely drowned.
Done. Yeah.
The stuff of off-road legends. Jeep tracks, murky water crossings, and the kind of trail where you're either moving forward or you're stuck in the middle of nowhere. This road isn't for the faint of heart, and that's exactly why I tackled it with my buddy Sean. We face water crossings that seem to go on forever with multiple blind corners. It's the kind of ride that tests your skills, your patience, and occasionally how waterproof your boots are. But it's also a blast, especially with good company. Riding with someone else means you push your limits and laugh off the challenges. By the end of the day, we were soaked, muddy, and grinning ear to ear. Pencil Lake Road proved once again why it's a rite of passage for any off-road rider in the area. This ride was all about pushing limits and embracing the unknown. The Pickaxe Loop by Ride the Highlands didn't disappoint. Challenging trails, breathtaking views, and one heck of a memorable night. Sean and I tackled the more advanced sections, but it was the sunset that stole the show. As the lights started to fade, instinct kicked in. I pulled up the map and scanned for potential campsites. Sure enough, just off the highway was a barely visible cut in the woods. It opened into a hidden gem, a small lake with the kind of beauty that makes you stop and just soak it in. That's the magic of adventure riding. You never know what's just around the corner. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. On the way home, we decided to take the trail south. That's when we hit an old sketchy bridge that I've crossed many times, and as luck would have it, the bridge gave out under me. I slipped through the cracks. The bike stuck like a puzzle piece in a spot it didn't belong. Good thing I wasn't alone. Sean and I teamed up to pull the bike out. It was a reminder of how riding with a buddy isn't just about camaraderie, it's about having someone there when unexpected things happen. Solo adventure always brings different energy. The Timber Trail Loop was 2 days of pure freedom. Me, my bike, and miles of trails and roads. The first day ended up on a high note, camping by a lake I've known for years. Watching the morning sunrise over the water was unreal. Day 2 was a mixed bag. Long pavement stretches and some slow-moving cottage areas made it less thrilling. Then came the technical section, Call My Mom. But don't let the name fool you, it's not beginner friendly. Loose rocks, steep inclines, washouts, it's the kind of trail where you pick your line and carefully commit. For me, it was a blast, but on a bigger ADV bike, let's just say, you better be ready for a workout. Even with its ups and downs, the Timber Trail Loop delivered. It's the kind of ride that sticks with you, reminding you why you do this. To test ourselves, to connect with nature, and to come out stronger on the other side. One of my most memorable moments this year was a bike failure that had everyone asking, what went wrong? This one's a bit of a wild ride, so let me take you through it. It started like any other day, just me, my bike, and the single track. I was out filming in the heat of the day, just cruising and enjoying the woods. The bike was hot, I was hot, and everything was going well. Until it wasn't.
So, right off the bat, what are you doing? Are you available for a rescue mission if need be?
I made a small mistake, and I slipped on a route on the way home, and that little slip triggered the first issue. One of the float bowl O-rings fell apart, and it disconnected the float bowl, allowing the entire airbox to be filled with gasoline. That's not a good sign. But it wasn't just that. The second problem was my starter relay. It blew, leaving me with no way to restart the bike. Now I'm in the woods at least 10k from the main road, and it's starting to get late. I knew I had to make a decision quickly, and with a good friend not far away who loves adventure and knows the drill, I called in a rescue mission. This turned into one of the most physically demanding parts of my year, towing a dead bike through the woods in the dark. It's not as easy as it sounds. There were moments when I thought I was going to lose my balance, and the sketchy terrain was definitely a test. But thankfully, nothing broke, no one got hurt, and we got the bike out of the woods in one piece. Another wicked day was the year taking the DR650 out on the local trails for a day of single track. I was out there filming for an episode, and it was a blast. The DR handled the tight technical trails a lot better than I expected, especially since it's not a true single track bike. But with the right approach, it did just fine. Even with the summer heat, the bike was holding its own, though I couldn't help but think a fan on the bike would be a game changer, both for it and for me. It was a long day, hiking back and forth to get the perfect shots, but I loved every minute of it. By the end of the day, I was completely wiped out. And just as I was heading home, I slipped on the route, and that was the start of the stranded in the woods night. That whole experience made me realize that as much as I love the DR650, a dedicated woods bike would really change the game for me. Something light and nimble but still street legal. It was a long, exhausting day, but looking back, it turned into one of those great stories. It's a reminder that sometimes the best experiences come from the unexpected. The legendary Corduroy Enduro. What some say could be Canada's longest or toughest enduro. This was something I had to experience this year on my bike. It's local to me and I ride these areas all the time. So spending the weekend on my dual sport, chasing down the action and doing some moto camping along the way was an absolute blast. The vibe there was awesome, just a bunch of moto junkies getting ready for the race. By the evening, I decided to get away from the dust and the noise and headed to a remote for some solitude. Campfire to top it off. Definitely the rest I needed. The next day, watching the racers take on Green Mountain, one of the most technical and challenging parts of the race. Steep, slippery rock climbs that left me in awe. The riders were incredible, pushing through terrain that seemed almost impossible. The day ended with a wet ride home, but man, it was such a great time. The last day was even better. Sean and I teamed up and chased the race around and hitting multiple checkpoints. We rode from test to test on back roads, cruising with racers who were using public roads to get around. It was such a fun experience convoying with them through the woods. Finally, we made it to the fairgrounds for the final MX test. Right in the middle of the pits, high action, high skill, and high rewards. Watching all of this up close in the area I know so well made the whole weekend another unforgettable experience. Some days, everything about the ride just clicks. This was one of those days. The weather was just perfect. Cool enough to stay comfortable, but warm enough to enjoy. The dirt, it was perfect. Just the right amount of moisture to keep the dust down, making the trails a dream to ride. And the forest, alive with early fall colors and the kind of backdrop that makes you just stop and take it all in.
Okay, at the spot. It's probably 6:30. I haven't checked the map. I can hear the thunder coming in. I'm gonna just like quickly get set up, get the tent, get the tarp set up, relocate the bike, and start organizing some of the firewood that I've left here.
I knew rain was coming later, so I got out early to beat it. After a smooth ride through the woods, I set up camp in a spot straight out of a nature documentary.
Looks as though the rain is coming in again.
Loons called all evening. Their echoes carrying across the lake. And deer quietly moved through the trees around me. It was like nature's soundtrack, perfectly timed to every moment. Early fall is one of the best times to be out there. No bugs, cooler air, and the stillness in the forest just makes everything feel peaceful. It's not about big, dramatic moments. It's about the quiet ones. Just me, the bike, and the woods. That's all that's needed. Trips like this remind me why I love solo camping.
I was just about to take off. Probably gonna want that. Alright, coming out of the woods. Beautiful night. Didn't rain like it was supposed to. And yeah, it's a good day. Weekend. They're calling for -4 overnight, so that'll be a bit chilly. But I wanted to get out. I know you want to see it. I want to do it, so let's do it together.
Very late fall riding always feels like the last sprint before the finish line. The forecast called for -4 overnight, but with clear skies and a break in the weather during the day, I couldn't resist one last weekend of adventure. After an entire season of solo moto camping, I wanted to soak up every last bit of it. Tearing through the woods, collecting footage, and just being out there. It's what I love most. Here's the thing about late fall. It's not just the cold, it's how early the darkness creeps in. By 5:30, I'd already had dinner, checked my gear, and I looked at the clock. Only to realize I had about 4.5 hours to go. A cold night ahead. Reading in the tent or feeding the fire felt like the only options, but honestly, I wasn't feeling it. The quiet of the woods was peaceful, sure, but it was the kind of quiet that gets in your head. I made the call to pack up in the dark and head home. It wasn't easy, cold hands, low patience, and that nagging feeling of failure following me the whole way home. After a season full of incredible moments and growth, I realized this wasn't about giving up. It was about listening to myself. That night, I chose the comfort of my bed and I decided to head back out in the morning. Sometimes that's the win. Every uncomfortable experience is an opportunity to learn and grow. That's the beauty of solo adventures. They push you, challenge you, and leave you with stories to tell.
Which is a little bit challenging.
A year full of adventure, challenges, and unforgettable moments on two wheels. I'd love to hear about your 2024 riding season. Drop a comment below and let me know what stood out for you. Your best rides, biggest lessons, or favorite moments. If you've enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and make sure to subscribe so you don't miss what's coming up next. I've got big plans for 2025, and I'd love to have you along for the ride.